Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Praja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Praja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Praja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Praja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotara Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gora Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse 22. Purushasa parapartha bhaktyalabhya tuananyaya yasyantashthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. Purushasa parapartha bhaktyalabhyastananyaya yasyantashthani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. Purushasa parapartha bhaktyalabhyastananyaya yasyantashthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sa, He. Para, the Supreme, than whom no one is greater. Partha, O son of Pritha, Bhaktya, by devotional service, Labhya, can be achieved, to, but, Ananyaya, unalloyed, undeviated devotion, Yasya, his, Antashtami, within, Bhutani, all this material manifestation, Yena, by whom, Sarvam, all, Idam, whatever we can see, Tatam, distributed. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading and everything is situated within him. Purport. It is here clearly stated that the supreme destination from which there is no return is the abode of Krishna, the Supreme Person. The Brahma Samhita describes this supreme abode as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. Whatever variegatedness is manifested here, it is all of the quality of the spiritual bliss. There is nothing material. All variegatedness is expanded as the spiritual expansion of the Supreme Godhead Himself, for the manifestation that is totally of the spiritual energy as explained in chapter 7. As far as this material world is concerned, although the Lord is always in His supreme abode, He is nonetheless all-pervading by His material energy. So by His spiritual and material energies, He is present everywhere, both in the material and in the spiritual universes. Yasyantashtani means that everything is sustained by Him, whether it be spiritual or material energy. It is clearly stated here that only by bhakti or devotional service can one enter into the Vaikuntha spiritual planetary system. In all the Vaikunthas, there is only one Supreme Godhead, Krishna, who has expanded Himself into millions and millions of plenary expansions. These plenary expansions are four-armed and they preside over innumerable spiritual planets. They are known by a variety of names: Purushottama, Trivikram, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Rishikesha, Shankarshana, Pradumna, Sridhara, Vasudeva, Damodara, Janardhan, Narayana, Vamana, Padmanabha, etc. These plenary expansions are all likened unto the leaves of a tree, and the main tree is likened to Krishna. Krishna, dwelling in Goloka Vrindavan, His supreme abode, systematically conducts all affairs of both universes, material and spiritual, without a flaw, by power of His all-pervadedness. Purusha sapara partha bhaktyalabhyastu ananyaya yasyantashthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. So here, Krishna continues explaining the position of the spiritual platform. Krishna is always on the spiritual platform. He is all-pervading. At the same time, He is not Himself present everywhere. He is present by His energies. Just like in a giant industry, the chief executive officer, the main proprietor of the business, of the facility, is everywhere by his workers and by his plans and by his production. And his presence is felt everywhere, although he's not personally present. Also, for example, in our government, the government is touching all the citizens through the laws, although the government itself is in the capital. So in the same way, Krishna, although he is a person, he is not a person like us. The difference between Krishna and the living entity is that Krishna is all-pervading and the living entity is localized. The difference between the material world and the spiritual world is that the spiritual world is unlimited and the material world is limited. Here in the purport, we see that Prabhupada mentions the Vaikuntha planets. So beyond the material universes, which are actually a sealed cocoon in which we live, and it is temporary and subject to dissolution and recreation, there is another world which is unlimited and always expanding. And in this unlimited world, there is unlimited planets, and on each planet there is a different form of Lord Krishna, different expansions of Lord Krishna, who resides and he accepts the service of his unlimited devotees. It is said that the spiritual creation is by far greater than the material creation. Just like in a material world, in a material kingdom, the department housing the prisoners and the department housing people who are psychiatrically disturbed is much smaller than the rest of the kingdom. So here in the purpose, Prabhupada mentions many of the names of those presiding deities in the different Vaikuntha planets. For example, Purushottam, Purusha Uttama. Purusha means that God is a person, but is Uttama, Purusha Uttama. There is a sandhi, U, and A and the U becomes O. So Purushottam. Purushottam means that God is the supreme person. He's exactly like us. We also have a person, but he is supreme. He is a predominator. Nitya Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Among all the eternals, there is one which is special. Among all the consciousness, all the conscious beings, there is one which is unique. And what is this uniqueness? Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. That one entity, the Supreme Lord, is maintaining everybody else. And this maintenance in the spiritual world takes a form of loving exchange. So it's called Purushottam. Another name Prabhupada gives here is Trivikram. Trivikram means that Krishna is standing in three forms. And Trivikram means that he controls all the planetary systems. Then Keshava. Keshava means that Krishna has beautiful hair, beautiful black hair. Madhava. Ma means the goddess of fortune. So Madhava means that Krishna is the husband of the goddess of fortune. Not one goddess of fortune, Sahasra Satta. Millions and hundreds of thousands of millions of goddesses of fortune are always serving Lord Krishna. So he's called Madhava. Aniruddha. Aniruddha means that he cannot be opposed. Whatever he wants happens. No one can go against God. No one can impede God's plan. No one can defeat God's plan. We may think that we're independent. We may think that we can do what we like. But when death comes, that is a reminder that actually Krishna's plan cannot be overcome, because we cannot overcome death. So, Kalosmi, Krishna says, I am time. When the time comes for the living entity to leave this body and die, no one can stop it. So he's called Aniruddha. Rishikesha. Rishikesha means that Krishna is the master of our senses. Just like my stomach is the enjoying part of my body, if I put food in my stomach, then the whole body becomes enlivened and happy and satisfied. Similarly, our senses are all connected to the supreme senses of Krishna. When we try and enjoy separately from Krishna, when we try to use our sensual power, our sensual experience independent of Krishna, we become dissatisfied. when we actually use our senses to satisfy Krishna, we become perfectly happy, because he is Rishikesha. He is the owner of the senses. He is also known as Sankarshan. Krishna is called Sankarshan because he can attract anyone. Sankarshan means to draw. Krishna can draw. If we simply by the process of chanting his name in this particular time in which we live, Kali Yuga, it has become so easy to understand Krishna. Simply by chanting his name, we will be attracted, because he is non-different to his name. So he's called Sankarshan, who can attract us. Pradyumna. Pradyumna means he's very beautiful. Sridhara. Sridhara means that Lakshmi is holding Lakshmi on his chest. In the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha planets, one can be liberated to a platform called Sarupya. Sarupya means that one can get the same form as Vishnu, with 4 arms, same color, same dress, except one difference is there, that on Vishnu's chest there is a golden line, and that is Sri, Lakshmi. That line is only Vishnu. Vishnu is attracting millions and millions of Lakshmis, or goddesses of fortune. So he's called Sridhara. Vasudev. Vasudev means that Krishna is present everywhere at all times. Don't think you cannot see God. Don't accept the argument that where is God? Show me God. No. The question is not show me God and where is God. The question is, how come you are so blind that you cannot see God? In fact, you have to develop special eyes to see God. You have to become qualified. It's just like if your car breaks down and you call an expert mechanic, you can look at the engine and you cannot see what is wrong, but the mechanic can look and he can understand what the problem is because of his expertise. So Krishna is present everywhere. Vasudeva. We can see him everywhere if we develop the expertise. It's not, and that expertise is difficult to find by our own knowledge. Even in the Vedas, Vedeshu Durlabha, it is difficult to achieve God or to see God, even in the scriptures which describe him. Adurlabham Hatma Bhakto, but it's very easy to find in the heart of his devotee. So Krishna is everywhere, provided you have the love and affection to see him. That love and affection draws Krishna, he becomes visible to you. So he's called Vasudeva. Damodar. Damodar means that Krishna is bound by love. You cannot bind Krishna in any way except by the affection through devotion, through bhakti. And this was the pastime which was enacted between Krishna and his mother, that his mother wanted to tie him up. And although Krishna cannot be tied, he can be tied by the ropes of love. So he's called Damodar. Janardhan. Janardhan means, Jana means people, and Janardhana means the chief of everyone. Krishna is the best of all persons. He's the number one. He is and not simply by saying, he is the number one by deeds. He is able to create all these universes and float them into space. He is able to maintain unlimited living entities. We can hardly maintain ourselves. What to speak of maintaining all living entities? So Krishna is Janardhan. He is the chief person. Narayana is called Narayana because when he creates the material universes, it lies into the ocean of creation. So it's called Narayana. Vamana. Vamana means that even though he is the greatest of the greatest, he one time appeared as a small dwarf. Vaman means dwarf, little, small, short. But even though he was a dwarf, in 2 steps he was able to cover the entire universe. Padmanabha. Padmanabha means that Krishna has a navel like a lotus flower. And from this navel, indeed, a lotus flower grows, And within this lotus flower, the entire universal creation is manifested. And on top of this lotus flower, Lord Brahma takes his birth. So these are various names of Krishna. And we can know him through the process of bhakti. Krishna himself gives us this instruction. In the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is several chapters that describe Krishna's instructing his intimate servant Uddhava. And he tells Uddhava, Madhya Uddhava na sadayati mam yogo. Sadayati means to bring under control, or to draw towards you. Krishna says, you cannot control me, you cannot draw me towards you through this process of yoga. So forget the yogic process. It is not going to work. Na Sankhya Dharma Uddhava. Madhya Uddhava also by Sankhya, by studying the material universes. You can study every atom in this universe, but you will not find Krishna. By Dharma, by following religious principles also, you cannot find Krishna. Naswadhyayas, by studying the Vedas, you cannot understand Krishna. Tapa, by austerity. Tyaga, by renunciation. Krishna says, none of these processes are able to bring me under the control of my devotee. What is only yatha mam bhakti urjita, one who actually develops loving affection, he can understand me. I was reading about Krishna's birth last night, and when he was a baby, the first big ceremony which was celebrated by his parents, Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan, was his birthday ceremony. So when his first birthday took place, all the cowherd boys, cowherd men came together, cowherd ladies, and they brought gifts for Krishna. Mother Yashoda, she bathed Krishna and dressed him and ornamented very beautiful. She also herself dressed very, very gorgeously, and she came in front of the local brahmanas who were gathered, and they were chanting different mantras. They were chanting different Vedic hymns to glorify Krishna. And as the baby Krishna was listening, the very Krishna, it was the purpose of these hymns. The goal of the hymns and the mantras being chanted by the brahmanas was Krishna. So you would think that it would have some effect on Krishna. No, you know what effect it had? Krishna fell asleep. That's the effect. They were chanting all the mantras glorifying him, and he went to sleep. So much for the mantras. If you want to attack Krishna, you have to do it through bhakti. And where is this bhakti? It is durlabha, difficult to find in the Vedas, Vedeshu, durlabha, adurlabha, but very easy, atma bhakto, within the heart of a devotee. Therefore, I stress again and again, and whenever I meet people, whenever I give instructions to people, whenever people ask me questions, I always bring them back to the same point, that we owe our spiritual life to Srila Prabhupada. He was the one who came and brought us Krishna. Before Prabhupada, there was no Krishna here in the West. Believe me, I read thousands of books. I never understood anything about Krishna. It took Prabhupada because Krishna was in the heart of Prabhupada. Krishna is in the heart of everyone, but it doesn't become manifested unless you have pure devotion for him. This is the standard. So the reason we don't have pure devotion of Krishna is because we are absorbed in something else. Everyone living in a material world is absorbed in sex life. Man is looking for a woman, and woman is looking for a man. So what is this urge? What is this power of sex that is so important? If you analyze sex, it is not about the actual sexual act or the periphery of sex. Sex is about power. That when you can control someone through sex, you become powerful. You feel stronger. We are imitating Krishna. Krishna is the supreme powerful, and that power over others that power that Krishna has over us, because we are his creation, we also have the same we have the same propensity to control. So when we control others without having Krishna in the middle, without understanding their relationship with Krishna, that happens in the material world. In the spiritual world, and even in the material world, even within the material universe, if we put Krishna in the center, then that desire of controlling becomes channeled because it's manifesting in its proper position. Our proper position is that we are eternally servant of Krishna's senses. So, because sex life is so powerful at binding the living entity to the material world, in spiritual culture, in Vedic culture, from the childhood, the boys are trained to be brahmacharis, trained to be free from sex desire. So that when you actually are able to practice brahmacharya, when you're able to practice celibacy, you gain an inner strength which is not available in any other field of activity. So when the boys who are meant to be leaders of society, the sons of the kings, the sons of the brahmanas or the priests, when they are trained up as children in the ashram or in the school of the guru, away from the house, and they're trained up in celibacy, they get a taste for this power. That even if afterwards, when they come to their 15 and 20 years and they get married, they don't forget that power that you can have when you're able to control your senses. The whole idea of understanding my spiritual identity is to control the senses. If you can control the senses, you can understand who you are. This is very basically the reason why celibacy is so important in Krishna consciousness. And the celibacy comes naturally by the grace of Krishna, simply by chanting his holy name. There is no need to go to the Gurukul anymore. There is no Gurukul. There is no teacher. But you can take advantage of the holy name of Krishna. This is the Yuga Dharma. Kalo Tadhari Kirtanat. Kalo Tadhari Kirtanat. In the age of Kali, chanting the name of Krishna is the proper and only dharma. It is some kind of a concession. It is a special offer for the fallen living entities. Otherwise, we are living in Kali Yuga and the present time. It is an ocean of faults. Kaler dosha nide. It is an ocean of fault. I asti eka mahan guna. But there is one great quality. Kirtanadeva Krishnashya Mukta Sangha Param Brajet. Simply by chanting the name of Krishna, simply by putting Krishna in the middle of your life, you become free from bodily concept. And when you become free from bodily concept, you don't take another birth in the material world. The reason we take another birth in the material world is because we are absorbed in material activities. Therefore, we take another birth because we want another birth. But if we understand we are spirit soul, if we understand that we are eternally connected to the Supreme Soul, Krishna, if we engage in his service as it is our constitutional position, then we do not need a material body. We will get a spiritual body because the relationship with the living entity and Krishna is spiritual. We serve Krishna in a spiritual body. Even a devotee like Prabhupada, a pure devotee like Prabhupada, even though he was within a material body, he was always acting spiritually. And you can see that by the way he thought, the way he wrote, the way he preached, the way he spoke, the way he conducted himself. You could understand that that was coming from his spiritual body. It was not coming from a material body. And therefore, I highly recommend that you read Prabhupada's books, that you try and understand his teachings, listen to his lectures. Don't go outside those parameters. Give credit to Prabhupada for doing what he did, bringing Krishna into our lives. If you don't give him credit, then you will not be successful in life. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So we have a few participants. Jai Shri Devi Dasi and Toshan Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna. And Atmavidya, my dear God brother from Germany, Dandavas Prabhu. Emily Laura, Pranjal Joshi, Hare Krishna. Rob Ealings, Hare Krishna. So there are no questions, but if you have any questions, as usual, please kindly comment. Last week, Toshan Krishna and Jai Shri Prabhu, they asked me, what was the difference between Gokula Vrindavan and Goloka Vrindavan? Gokula Vrindavan is where Krishna manifests his pastimes on this planet within the material universes. And Goloka Vrindavan is an eternally existing Vrindavan in the spiritual world. Actually, Srila Prabhupada didn't really comment on the difference between the two. Sufficient to know that the local Vrindavan, that Vrindavan Dham, when it is manifested in the spiritual world, it is eternal, ever existing. When Krishna brings this Goloka Vrindavan to the material universe, to the Gokula, it also is eternal and ever existing. When the creation is destroyed, that Vrindavan remains within the body of Krishna, and again it is manifested. So the greatness of Gokula Vrindavan is that we can go there. We can take advantage of the dust of Vrindavan. We can go there, and by being there, we will feel the presence of Krishna. A devotee is very much attracted to visiting Vrindavan because everywhere there is the history of Krishna's presence. Anything that has value, that value comes when it is connected with Krishna. It doesn't matter what it is. The purpose of life is that whatever you do, whatever your profession, whatever your activity, if the results of those activities is that you satisfy Krishna, then that is perfect. That is the criterion. The criterion is, it is never about us. It is always about Krishna. Rob Ealing comments that from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Marketplace of the Holy Name, Shraddha is compared to a paisa, a small coin worth 2 cents, by which the Holy Name can be purchased. Yes, and actually, the best salesman and the owner of the Holy Name is Nityananda Prabhu. Bhaktivinoda wrote a very beautiful song, and he comments that Kabe Nityananda more koridoya. When will Lord Nityananda give me his mercy? Kabe Nityananda more koridoya. Charai bemor vishayera maya. And what is the symptom of that mercy, Lord Nityananda? That the desire for material enjoyment becomes extinguished. Dia mora nija chara nirachaya. When will he give me the shade of his lotus feet? Namera hatete hoibe adhikar. When will I get the right from Lord Nityananda to become a member of the Marketplace of the Holy Name? When I first went to India in 1966, in 1976, I traveled extensively in Bengal, and I had a group of brahmacharis. We had a small mini bus, and we would go village to village and town to town, distributing Prabhupada's books. We only had one book at the time called the Gita Gan, or the poem of the Bhagavad Gita, which Prabhupada had written in Bengali. So we would do a lot of kirtan and distribute books. And in those years, I actually felt that I belonged to the Marketplace of the Holy Name. But that wonderful feeling was later lost due to my misfortune. Anyhow, thank you very much for participating. I'll see you again on Friday. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol.